Shane had dedicated 5 years of his life to Fauna Rescue South Australia, living out his dream of aiding animals. From his early years as a volunteer at local shelters to his current role alongside 4 other dedicated volunteers at the renowned Fauna Rescue, Shane's commitment to animal welfare was unwavering. Despite also working as a veterinarian during the day, his evenings and weekends were devoted to the rescue center, where he provided advice, administered treatments, and even made house calls to concerned citizens. As the end of August approached, signaling the onset of spring in Australia, Shane sat in the office surrounded by blossoming trees outside. He was on phone duty that evening, a role that exposed him to over 15,000 calls annually, each presenting its own unique challenges. Over the years, Shane had handled everything from wild animals invading homes to unexpected medical emergencies masquerading as animal crises. He thought he had seen it all until that fateful evening. The phone rang, interrupting the calm of the office. Shane answered in his practiced tone, identifying the rescue center and eagerly awaiting the caller's plea for help. The voice on the other end was hesitant, almost sheepish, and vague in describing the problem. A duck on a farm in distress, but the details remained elusive. Persistently, Shane probed for more information, expecting to hear about an injury or illness common among farm animals. Then, in a moment that left him utterly bewildered, the woman uttered a sentence that momentarily stunned him. "I think my duck has grown fur." Silence followed, during which Shane struggled to comprehend what he had just heard. "Grown fur?" he repeated, incredulous. The notion was so bizarre and unexpected that it took a moment for him to gather his thoughts. Here he was, accustomed to handling wildlife emergencies and medical crises, now confronted with the inexplicable notion of a duck sprouting fur. As the reality of the situation sank in, Shane realized that even after years of service, the unpredictability of animal rescue never ceased to amaze him. This was a new challenge, one that would require his expertise and the collaborative efforts of his team to resolve. With determination renewed, Shane calmly assured the caller that help was on the way, silently preparing himself for whatever awaited him at the farm, an unprecedented encounter with a duck unlike any he had encountered before. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" Shane asked incredulously, his mind struggling to process the bizarre claim. The lady repeated herself, her voice earnest and tinged with a mix of confusion and certainty. She had been running her farm for decades without encountering anything like this before. That morning, when she checked on her ducks, she was startled to see what appeared to be fur underneath one of them, right on its belly. Her eyesight wasn't as sharp as it used to be, but she was certain. She had even reached in and felt it, the unmistakable texture of fur where feathers should have been. Understandably skeptical, Shane listened as the lady recounted how she had called other animal groups, only to be dismissed as a prank caller. Frustrated and desperate for answers, she persisted until reaching Fauna Rescue South Australia, where Shane happened to pick up the phone. Shane hesitated. This wasn't the typical wildlife rescue call he was accustomed to handling. It sounded too bizarre to be true. Yet, something about the lady's demeanor resonated with him. She reminded him of his own mother, who had grown up on a farm, and he couldn't ignore the genuine concern in her voice. Against his better judgment, Shane agreed to visit the farm the following day. His colleagues chuckled when he shared the story, amused by the peculiarity of the situation. Undeterred by their skepticism, Shane arrived at Eliza's farm the next day, eager to unravel the mystery. Eliza greeted him warmly, offering him a drink before they headed towards the duck enclosure. Shane's curiosity was piqued as she shared more intriguing details. The duck in question had recently laid eggs but hadn't left its enclosure for nearly a week, an unusual behavior for a typically mobile duck. Eliza had taken to bringing food directly to the duck to ensure it didn't go hungry. Approaching the wooden pen, Shane caught sight of the duck. It sat in a shadowy corner, its worn feathers hinting at its age and long tenure on the farm. Despite its outward appearance, there was an intensity in its gaze that struck Shane, a focused determination that seemed at odds with its placid surroundings. "Now, what have we got here?" Shane inquired, his curiosity piqued as he crouched down beside the duck. He retrieved a glove from his coat pocket and carefully slipped it on before gently touching the animal. The white feathers felt dry and ordinary to the touch, but as he moved his hand along its side, something caught his attention, a patch of dark brown fur. Examining more closely, Shane realized that this wasn't part of the duck at all. It was a completely different texture, thick, dense, and fluffy. Rolling the duck over slightly, he uncovered more distinctive features: a small claw, a pointy ear, and a beady black eye. Astonished, Shane reached for a flashlight to confirm his suspicions. There, nestled beneath the duck, was a baby, of a species entirely different from the duck itself. It appeared that this young animal had found refuge with the duck, perhaps mistaking it for a surrogate mother. Separated from its own parent, it had sought warmth and protection in the nest of the duck, which had accepted it as one of her own. Eliza's initial confusion over the fur on her duck was now clarified. What she had mistaken for an oddity in her duck's plumage turned out to be an unexpected guest. Despite ducks not being known for fostering other species, this particular duck had exhibited remarkable empathy, caring for the orphaned possum just as she did her own ducklings. However, Shane knew that the arrangement couldn't last. The possum and the duck had different dietary needs, habits, and behaviors. If left together, the possum would likely suffer from malnutrition, and the ducklings could also be at risk. Reluctantly, Shane explained to Eliza that they needed to separate them for the welfare of both animals. Despite the sadness of parting, Eliza agreed that it was the best course of action. Grateful for the duck's nurturing spirit, she requested that they name the possum Daisy in honor of the duck who had inadvertently become her protector. And so, Daisy the possum found a new home at the Fauna Rescue Center, where she thrived in the care of experts who understood her unique needs. There, she made another orphaned possum friend, and together, they grew stronger. Reflecting on the unexpected bond between the duck and Daisy, Eliza now checks the duck enclosure carefully whenever she feeds them, half hoping to discover another act of compassion from her humanitarian duck.